Here we are. Welcome to the last tutorial. Welcome to the last video. Hi guys, welcome to the last video for our Flappy Fish tutorial. In this episode, we're going to make some special effects for when you hit something and die. We'll make a particle effect system, and we'll also make it so that you can restart the game once you've lost. And we'll see how we go from there. We might also fit a bit of time in to put some intro text at the start. So first things first, open up your game manager script, and we'll want to find the part that says Right, let's get to it. What we need to do is... Hi guys, welcome to the last episode of our Flappy Fish tutorial. In this video, what we're going to be doing is making, when you hit something, your fish is going to blow up. He's going to blow up into particles of bubbles. It's just a bit of special effects. And we'll also make it so that you can restart the game by pressing the space bar if you've died, which is not too complicated at all. So the way that we do that, we'll go into our fish control script, and you'll find the part that says on collision enter 2D when you hit something solid. Just before that happens, we want to say game manager dot instance dot game running equals false, just to tell the game to stop spawning coral and making the ground stop moving and stuff like that. And now what we can safely say is when we get to this point here, if the game is running, if it isn't running, if it's game over, we can tell it to do restart game. And we'll make that event now. So just underneath update, we want to make a new function by saying void restart game. And in here we want to type application dot load level. Application, and then inside the brackets you say application dot loaded level. And what that means is once it's game over, if they press the spacebar, it'll check if the game's running or if it's game over, and it'll say restart game. Let's find out if that actually works. So press spacebar, fish jumps, and then we hit the ground. Game looks like it's still running to me. I think we'll need to get the game... yeah, I see what's going on. It's still making coral and the ground's still running. We might actually make a function here that just says that the game has ended. Make it public, and then the fish controls can just tell the game manager, hey, the game's ended, do whatever you need to do. So we'll say game over. I think that sounds like a good way of putting it. Now we can go back to here. We can actually delete these lines now. All we need to say is game manager dot instance dot game over. Then you put brackets. Make sure you've got because we also have a variable called game over. No, we don't. Okay, just the one with the capital G. And we'll say game running is false. Game over is true. Cancel invoke. This one's really important. This I think it was make coral gate. Yeah, so that's going to stop the game from generating coral. We also want to tell the texture offset moving. I want to set that to false, so that the ground stops moving along. So let's try that out and see if it works. The ground, the game stops, and it stops making coral too. Even though it didn't make any this time, it stopped making it for now, which is good. But can we restart the game? That is the great question. So game's over, press space, it reloads the game. So that's all working very well. Oh, I just thought of a bit of a problem we might run into. I don't know if you've noticed, but at the start there's a big pause. And it might be possible for people to fly over your first gate. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So what we'll do is if we click on the coral gate and we find the top one. In fact, let's drag this in and we'll edit it in the actual editor. Drag your coral gate in and click on the top one. What we want to do is we'll make the Y size really big. Let's set it to 100. Let's just make that really difficult. And then we'll offset it by 90. Let's type in 90 here. 90, 80, 30. It'll be like 45, I believe, because it's we only want halfway. So now that looks pretty good. I think they're going to have a pretty hard time jumping over that now. So once you're done with that, make sure you've clicked on the coral gate and go apply, and we can delete that now. Now they should have a pretty difficult time jumping over that. Yeah, they die, which is good. So it's just a little bug that we needed to fix in our game. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is make some particles. So what particles are, you'll see what particles are actually. I think I should just do it, and you can just follow along with what I'm making, and then you'll see what happens when we do this. So we're going to go particle system from the drop down menu. We'll set that to 0, 0, and 90. There we go, that's cool. Zoom right in on that. First things first, I think we actually need to make a material, sorry. So if we right click down here anywhere and go create material, call this bubble material. Or just bubbles, even. And we'll set the shader, this is really important. Click on shader and go particles, alpha blended, and then it'll ask us to pick a texture. Click this button here, and you want to pick the bubble, which is one of the things I've put in the asset pack. Now, what we can do is go back to our particle system, give it a name, we'll call it bubble particles, and we'll say start lifetime. This is basically we can affect these little things that are flying out of our fish. Well, I'm going to set this, if we click on the side here and go random between two constants, I'm going to set 1 and 6. That's pretty cool. Set the start speed, set that to 1 and 10. Start size, random between two constants, 0.2 and 1. That looks pretty good. Start rotation, that's all fine. Gravity modifier we'll set to minus 0.5, or even maybe just minus 0.2. Simulation space, we want that to be world. Inherent velocity, that's fine. Play on awake, not really, and we don't want it to be looping. Now click on the emissions thing. We want to have we want that to be 0. Set that to 0. Shape, I think we can set this to circle. If we say simulate, nothing happens. If we say add a burst in there. There we go. If we say, now we can say minus 0.5. That looks pretty good. Limit velocity over lifetime, I think we do want to do that. And we'll say set the dampen to 0.1. There we go. So sort of like a nice bubbles flying out and then rising up. I think we could also have force over lifetime. We'll set that to minus 5 on the x axis. Space, want that to be world. Simulate, looks like they're floating away behind him. Color over lifetime, we want that one. If you click on the color bar, you'll get this come up. You want to click on this top slider up here, and there'll be a part that says alpha. Make sure that's selected and drag that all the way down to 0. And this one, you can sort of drag about halfway. And what that's going to do is make them fade out over time. I reckon that looks pretty good. Alright, the last thing we need to do is click on renderer, and we'll say material, bubbles. There we go, that looks pretty good. Sort mode, not sure what that is. Sorting fudge, we don't need any shadows. We couldn't even see them because it's a 2D game. I think that looks pretty good. Cool. Alright, we'll leave that there. If we go into the fish controls, I think the fish controls will be the ones to deal with this. We'll make a reference to a game object. And we'll call it a particle system. Call it bubble particles. Then make sure to save that. Now what we want to say is on update when you press key, I think this would be pretty good. Every time you jump, maybe a couple of bubbles should just fall out because it looks like, you know, you're making a fuss down there. I think we'll say bubble particles dot emit. Then in brackets we'll say random dot range 1, 2, 4. And then we put another bracket in. That looks pretty good. And then void on collision enter when you collide with something solid. Just before we destroy the game object, we'll say bubble particles dot emit. We'll say like 30, 40, probably 40. Sounds pretty good. Now when we collide with something, oh yes, we need to assign it, of course. So now what we want to do is we'll click on our fish. You'll see we've got an error here. It's because we haven't assigned the bubble particles. So we'll drag the bubble particles over. Now if we run it, every time we jump, it works, but they sort of, it's coming out of one spot. I see what's the problem. Before we, every time we do that, we want to move the bubble particles to where we are. So say transform dot position equals transform position. So just on the line above where we emit them under on update when you press space, just before we emit them, we'll move it to where we are. And we'll do if we can even copy that line and pop it just above that the next time we do it as well. That's a nice cost-effective way of getting some particles to follow us around. Nice. That looks really good. That looks good. Feel free to mess with that if you want. Particles are really fun. It's a great way of getting your game to feel a bit more alive, and it's got more special effects to it. Feel free to play with these values. You can make them start at a different size and speed, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with this, so feel free to play around with that. It's very fun. The last thing we'll do, really quickly, we'll add this in. We'll put some text just to tell the player, hey, you can start the game and that you've lost the game. So we'll go up to game object and make a new UI element called text. We'll call this one intro text. Actually, what we can do is delete that, sorry. We'll copy the one that we've already got, duplicate it, call this intro text. We should name these text things so that we don't get confused. Score text, intro text. There we go. Intro text, make sure that's set to center and set that to 0, 0, 0. And we'll set that, the alignment to the center. And now we can say something like, welcome to Flappy, welcome to Flappy Fish. Might need to make that a bit wider. If you change the width, if you're getting that weird sort of effect, it might be if we go horizontal overflow down the bottom, set that to overflow, and vertical overflow, same thing. So welcome to Flappy Fish. Press space to start. Looks pretty good. Save that. We can duplicate that. Call this one game over. Game over text. For this one we'll say we'll turn off this top one so that we can see what we're writing. You can click this button to turn an object on and off just temporarily. So we'll click on game over text and say you lost. Good luck next time. Sounds good. Nice motivating message. Now what we'll do is we'll make that one turned off as well. In fact, the intro text can stay on. We'll make some references to it in the game manager. So if we scroll up to the top there, just below where we've got our score text, we'll say public text, intro text, public text, game over text. I'll give those lowercase letters just so we don't get confused. We'll add those in as well. Intro text goes here, game over text goes there. And now what we'll say is when you start the game, intro text dot game object dot set active false, which means we'll turn it off. When you start the game, the intro text disappears, and when you've got game over text dot game object dot set active true, and that means that should work. Let's try it out. There's some stuff, and then you press space and it disappears, and then you're flapping away, and then you hit something that says you lost. Better luck next time. And that's it. That's our game. That's Flappy Fish in its final form. We didn't get to do a high score. Maybe you could try and add that yourself. It wouldn't be too hard to extrapolate that a bit. So that's it. That's Flappy Fish for you. You've successfully made a small game in Unity. You should be really proud of yourself if you've gotten this far. If you've gotten any errors, let one of us know, let your mentor know, or let someone know, and we'll help you out with it, because it's really good to get your game up and running, and it won't be hard to fix anything that any problems you've had. It's usually just part of the code that needs fixing up. So pat yourself on the back. You've done really well to get this far, and enjoy this horrible knockoff of Flappy Bird. And we'll see you with the next tutorial. We'll make something a bit more complicated maybe. Enjoy!